All opinions are those of the participants making them and are not an endorsement of any position, program, religion, or political affiliation. DFG's Corner is for information, observations, and entertainment. I ask that you like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Welcome to DFG's Corner. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce. I'm coming to you live from the 571 where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. Tonight's show came to me from Chocolate Pearl. She wanted to talk about the different generations and what's different and what's the same. So, well, I want to talk about. I got a little video I want to show, but before I do that, I want to introduce you to Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl. What's going on, Chocolate Pearl? You there, Chocolate Pearl? I guess she can't hear me. What's going on, Big Al?
Big Al is fine and dandy like peppermint candy.
that's as long as it's not out the church lady's purse, because you know that got to be having lint on it.
Oh yeah.
And also as usual, it's the rest of the fam. We got Miss Kim. We got Miss Kim on there. We got Miss Nikki on YouTube Live. We're live on Instagram Live, Rumble Live, TikTok Live, Facebook Live, and a lot of other places live. So if you want to get on the show, just let me know. I will send you the link and you can join us in the merriment. But right now I'm going to switch over to share this video with you about generations. If I can be smarter than the equipment, give me a second.
I couldn't hear you at first, so I had to turn it up.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, it's about as far as up as it's gonna go. How are you doing, Chocolate Pearl?
I'm blessed, still stressed, but I'm still highly favored.
That's what's up. That is definitely what's up.
My children claim they're gonna come on tonight.
All
Shall
right, if
see.
they do, they do. If they don't, we still gonna go on with the show. Now I'm gonna start this video off.
Generational shifts opening visual. Timeline animation with year markers from 1940 to 2020. Soft music and workplace images fading in and out. How has the American workplace transformed from 1940 to 2020? Let's explore the practical implications of these generational shifts. Work norms have evolved dramatically. In the 1940s, loyalty and long tenure were expected, with stability highly valued. Today, workers seek mobility, skill development, and flexibility. While older generations prize security, younger ones now look for purpose and growth. Communication also changed from formal, in-person meetings and phone calls to digital-first tools like email, instant messaging, and social platforms. Managers must now adapt to different feedback styles and expectations. Employers today must balance the experience and institutional knowledge of older workers with the digital fluency and change-oriented mindset of younger employees. This means designing policies that support mentorship, reskilling, and flexible work arrangements. Silent generation per traditionalist 1940s-1960s, shaped by scarcity in national service value, loyalty, authority, and long tenures. Baby boomers, born after WWII, driven by ambition and teamwork, adapted to new tech but still value face-to-face for key decisions. Generation X, raised in uncertain times, they prize independence, work-life balance, and are comfortable bridging traditional and modern approaches. Millennials grew up as the internet became mainstream, seek purpose, rapid learning, flexibility, and bring digital-first expectations to work. Generation Z, the most digitally immersed, they want personalized career paths, skills training, inclusive employers, and lightning fast visual communication. Understanding these generational differences enables workplaces to create environments where all employees thrive. The key: embrace change, value every perspective, and cultivate a culture of continuous learning.
Now that's what's up. Let's talk about the silent generation. The silent generation was before World War II, and they were born in the late 19 teens to 19 about 1945, 44, 45. Now this was this was my grandparents' generation. Some people it's their great grandparents' generation, and some people it's their parents' generation. I know for Miss Kim, at least for Miss Kim and Big Al, their parents were silent generation people. So, in talking about silent generation, Chocolate Pearl, what do you remember about our grandmothers?
I remember our mother's mother was such a sweet, hardworking, um, gentle little woman. And she really didn't speak much. But when she spoke, you listened, of course. But she didn't really speak much, and she was funny. Now, our dad's mother, I do remember, she was stern, no holds bar, will kill a man over her children and grands. Uh, was she quiet? No, she was a loud woman, but hardworking, loved her family. So I don't know. If her well her because her and her grandma Frances and grandma Betty's her birthdays was on the same day, but I think they were several years difference.
About 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years difference. And so there was no gentle giant with our father's uh mother, but it was a, you know, difference in our grandparents, put it that way. That's what I remember.
Yeah, yeah. I remember neither one of them took any mess, but our father's mother was well. They had different upbringings. Our father's mother had 10 children, nine surviving, and she had them from the age of 14 to about 32, 33. So she had to be tough. She had to be
Mhm.
tough. Our mother's mother had three daughters, well, three and a step that we called that was our aunt anyway. Um, she was she was more she was more professional driven. She had a great job that she worked at for years until she had to retire. She did get accepted to Northwestern University, so she had brains, and she did her best, and she was married twice, as was our father's mother, but they came up during the depression, so they had a way of living. And I know Big Al said that last week about his parents that they came up during the depression, so they had to learn how to make a lot with a little. Your parents were a silent generation, Big Al. So what do you think?
Well, on my mother's side and my father's side, the women typically were stay-at-home moms where they raised the family. And like your family, they had a lot of children, 13, 14, 15 kids. And the wife generally stayed in the home. My dad wanted my mom to do the same, but she wanted to teach, so she taught school. She was popping out babies. She had 8 of us back to back to back, would deliver a baby and go right back into the classroom. So my dad worked at a plant, and his father worked on the railroad. So uh, the mother was pretty much the disciplinarian because my dad spent so many hours at the plants, and he had those weird hours where he worked 3 to 11 and worked what he called the dog, where he worked from 11 until 7. So my mom, the worst whipping I got, I got from my mom. And she kept us all, the 7 boys and 1 girl, kept us all straight. So
And when were your parents born? What year?
my mom was born in 1930, and my dad was born in 1921. So he was 9 years older than her. And typically, older men would marry younger women, at least in my community and from what I saw. So him being 9 years older was not the norm. There were normally 12, 15, 20-year differences between the men and their wives. So it's almost like uh, what do you call it? Pedophilia legally, because older men were looking for younger wives. And if you look at the movie, the one with Oprah Winfrey, what was that? Purple. Oh no, The
The
Color
color
Purple.
purple.
Yeah, Color Purple. So that was what I visioned as a young boy growing up. Older men marrying younger women, and so I'm just happy to be here.
And I got my day one online. He just came. I asked him to come on and talk. Um, my boy, the Ice Lord. What's going on, Ice?
What's going on, DFG? How is
Hey,
everybody
man.
doing?
Hey, it's great. It's great. It's always great to have you on. Now, your grandmother was born in 1908.
Correct.
It way in she from Mississippi, not Mississippi. She from Mississippi.
Indeed. Indeed.
And a lot of times, you would tell us stuff, but we as city kids really didn't understand what she went through.
That's
And
the
I
truth. Yeah.
I didn't understand until I was older and understood, why you definitely didn't say the N word in your house. You didn't even say Negro. Like that's too close. But tell us how was your grandmother and what impact did she have on you growing up?
I'm sorry, yeah, you cut out for a little while. I think you were asking what influence my grandmother had on me.
Yes,
Uh, she shaped a lot of my mindset, being that she had to endure what she endured, bringing up her siblings and that time. Um, she had to deal with the racism and the fact that she had so little education, formal education. Uh, she just taught us how to deal with adversities and difficulties and still hold your head up high.
definitely, definitely. I love me some Miss Hawkins. She was a
Yeah.
great woman. She's a great woman, and she was my grandmother, just like like my
Oh yeah.
grandmother was your grandmother.
Indeed.
Miss Kim, your parents were silent generation. What can you say how they had a great spread of children also. How did that affect you growing up?
Oh, well, by being the youngest of nine, I'm the ninth child. My father was married before, and him and his first wife had six kids. And when he met my mom, she already had a daughter. So when she married my dad, she had two more, me and my brother Ronald. So my mom well, she used to work, but when she got pregnant with me, my dad asked her, he told her she didn't have to work anymore. She can, be at home. He owned his own business. He was a plumber and electrician. So, yeah, that's kind of how I grew up out there. Excuse me, I took some cold medicine, so I'm losing my train of thought. But we were a close knit family, and I'm saying were because some of us now that they are gone on, we're not as close as we used to be. Because my mom, she was the one that, like Big Al said, she was the more disciplinary. She kept us all in line. And my dad was the one that always went out to work. She stayed home. She cooked 3 meals a day. This woman ironed everything, including this man boxer. So she was a very caring woman. I saw how she truly took care of her man. And my dad, my mom didn't even have to go out and buy grocery. She made the list, and daddy would always go out and buy grocery. So that's kind of how I was brought up. So it instilled in me just how to, even though I made some mistakes coming up on picking and choosing who was in my life, but I know from watching my parents and how they cohabitated and got along, every day wasn't always a great day, but they always knew how to bring it back together. And they did a lot of stuff together. So I had a pretty decent childhood coming up. I did not know my grandmothers because they were all deceased, but I did know my grandfathers.
And what years were your parents born?
Oh wow. Dad was 1928, and he was like about 7 years older than mama. And her birthday is tomorrow, and she would have been 93.
Okay, okay. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely silent generation. DJ Dabs, were your parents boomers or were your parents silent generation?
Okay, so my parents, my mom was born. I was just trying to remember. She was before the silent generation. She was that whatever that first generation was, they call
The
it.
greatest generation.
Greatest generation. And my dad was um he was probably about the opposite of Big Al's, 9 years younger than my mom. So um and he was born in 33.
So what about that? What was what did they impart to you in your life, and how did they affect your life?
Well, my dad was in the Marine Corps, so uh, for the most, well, actually, I was gonna say he was gone. Actually, he wasn't really gone a lot, because we did a lot of traveling. I remember, um, even at the, even at my younger days, uh, we would travel across the country and stuff that I remember, because he moved from there. He was moving back and forth from California to Washington for a few years, because my mom, they met in Bremerton, Washington, and her dad owned the house there. I never got a chance to meet my grandparents really. I think I met my grandfather once. They were in Mississippi. And he was from Mississippi. She was from Louisiana, and during his military days, he was, like I said, we did a lot of traveling back and forth for California, because we stayed at the military base in California. and then a year or two we drive back up to Washington, stayed there a few years because I was born in California. Well, my sister before me was born in Camp Lejeune. There was 9 of us total. Um, and my brother after me was born in Washington, and then my sister after him was born back in California. So I know we was traveling back and forth quite a bit. And so I remember, um, he was very, I guess, a very astute gentleman. Being he was a Marine Corps, so and I can remember times when we travel, in order to go somewhere, stay somewhere, he'd have to put his military uniform on so we can get a hotel. I remember them days, but um,
Okay, that's interesting. Your dad had a military background. They were both um, most of our grandparents and parents were born in the South.
yeah,
My my great grandmother on my father's side was from um, what's the name of that town outside of Beaufort, South Carolina,
Bluffton.
Bluffton, Bluffton, South Carolina, and my great great grandmother on my mother's side was from Norfolk, Virginia. So they came from the South. They both came up north. My mother's mother was born in New York City. My father's mother was born in Bluffton. um, a lot of us, we used to go down. We used to go down from up north down south in the summertime, and it would or our cousins would come up and so we kind of understood what was it, but I was a little boy when my great grandmother passed, both of them on both sides. But they were born in the 1800s, so they was like they were like a generation and a half from slavery. So it was like and they grew up during Jim Crow and all of that stuff. So it was like no, and so our parents had to grow up with that. Now, I know Big Al's a boomer, a baby boomer. What was the difference between the greatest generation and your generation and your son, your kids are Gen X?
Right. Well, I think the biggest difference is the value system. For me, I was very frugal with my money. I drove cars for as long as I could drive them until the wheels fell off. I believed in saving and investing. My children are more materialistic. If they want a Beamer, they're going to go buy a Beamer. Uh, they want big houses. They want things right now, and they're not willing to wait and sacrifice. So I think the biggest difference between my generation and my children are the value systems. It's that microwave mentality. I want it right now. And they're not really focused on saving for the future for their children. And my parents were pretty much like me. They stayed in jobs for a career. They were very frugal. They made sure that we had the basic necessities that we needed, but they were savings. They did insurance policies so that, you know, when they transitioned, that it would not be a burden on the family. So they did a lot of things to prepare their children, being myself and my siblings, to be able to survive and to provide some small generational wealth or generational impact in terms of finances. I've done the same for my children, but they don't seem to think that way. They think grandpa and grandma should take care of their children's education, and they spend their money on Mercedes and BMWs.
Mm.
And that's strange because
Where
I'm
they do
I'm
that
I'm
at?
also I'm Gen X, and my parents really didn't, and that was the thing. most Gen X parents didn't teach us how to work with money or make money work for us. We had to kind of figure that out on our own. And the biggest thing about that is that um, while we learned, our kids kind of suffered for that because we really didn't understand how to save and how to invest. And we ate a lot of struggle food because we didn't know any better. um, I see my niece and nephew are in here as well as um, they're my nephew's a millennial, my niece is Gen Z, and I got my boy the chef in here and he's Gen Z. Um, we didn't really Gen X was kind of one of that sandwich generation to where we knew enough about the Great Depression wasn't too far from us, and we know enough about computers that we're not totally lost with them. But
We know,
in that, in that, depending on how much money your parents left you, that you tried to do better for your kids, and unfortunately, um, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to be worse off than we were as Gen Xers, and they're a lot worse off than baby boomers because there's no there's no job stability. Like you said, Big Al, your parents worked at probably the same place, until they couldn't work anymore, and that was just how it was. You lived in the same town, you met the same people, you did the same thing, and as early boomers, you guys were the first ones to really get up and go and move places. Now I know your vocation took you to other places, but you went to college. You probably said, okay, if you wouldn't have lived in your hometown, you'd probably lived in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or something like that, somewhere in the South Atlanta. You would have spread your wings. But Gen X was the first generation to where we didn't stay in one place. We moved from place to place to place, and although we always knew where home was, now as we're older, none of my day ones that I grew up with live in the same. Actually, none of them live in the city anymore, in New York City anymore. Everybody lives, away from New York City, where
You
our
got one.
parents,
Macho
where
still
our
lives.
no, I'm
no,
talking about
Macho moved.
my day ones, not my
Oh,
siblings. I got one sibling lives in New York
Moved.
City.
no. Oh, Macho moved.
Yeah, Macho
He's
live upstate now.
upstate New York now.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
yeah.
No big deal. No big deal.
But I was hoping he'd come on, but
All right, you do. He wasn't coming on.
I know, but I had to ask.
Yeah.
But the big thing was that one thing our parents did do was tell us to get out of the projects. It
That.
was
Yep.
like when we were younger, people used to be glad when people left the projects. It's like, oh, you leaving the
Mm-hmm.
projects? Yeah, yeah, great for you.
Mm-hmm.
As we got older, and between when the millennials was there, it was kind of they want to stay in the projects. And it was like, why do you want to stay in the projects? Because it was easier, because that's all they knew.
Yeah.
But us, we were all trying to get out of there. And not to say the projects was bad, but it was the projects, and we knew we had, in order to do something better, we had to be better, and we had to leave where we had. Everybody chased jobs, and Gen X is probably gonna be the last generation to be able to get a job, work 20 to 30 years, and retire from that job and get a pension.
Yeah.
That's the
Just to
thing. Gen X, when we grew up that once you got it, like you said earlier, once you got a job, you stayed on it. You wanted longevity with that job. I've actually had a boss, younger than I am, and she told me she only stays on a job 4 years.
Mm.
It doesn't make a difference how much education she has and how much experience she has. She says she only stays on the job 4 years.
And why is that?
She likes change. I thought back in the day when we were being raised and we had to go to they don't do that anymore now, but we had to go to job fairs, and that job fair actually taught you. They didn't just say, okay, fill out these applications or leave your resume. They taught you how to go through a interview. They taught you how to do your resume. They you did a lot, how to dress, how to talk, how to act. That's how we grew up. Now
But
it's
those programs were, but Pearl, the issue is that those programs got stripped away in the 80s.
Yeah,
yeah,
Reagan took that.
yeah.
Yeah, so
But
yeah,
what I'm saying is that I tried to pass that down to my children, what I had learned um about what I just discussed about how to, dress, how to talk, how to look, and to stay on a job. Get up every day, even if you don't want to go, get up every day. Do not call off. Go to work sick and let them send you home type thing.
Can
That's
Yeah.
what
can
I
I say
grew up
something
on.
if I can?
Yes.
This is coming from, I guess, a younger minded person, if you would. First of all, good afternoon, everybody. But
Okay.
what I was gonna say is, in my short time working, I mean, I'm only 24 years old, so I haven't really done much in my life yet. But in my short time working, I've had multiple jobs. But see, I've had multiple jobs for different reasons. There has been some jobs that you get into, and when you start off, you hear how things are supposed to be, things are promised, things like that, and then you get down the line and you understand why this company was working so hard to keep you around. And then you have other places where it's like I more so am there just to gain the knowledge. Once I gain the knowledge and I learn the skills, then I wouldn't say I'm out of there because I've got what I needed, but and at least the way that I look at it, there's a stepping stool. Now, of course, I want to get to that place where I can be there for 35, 40 years, retire, pension, 401k, all of that stuff. Because I've been building my 401k now. But what I would like to say is, I mean, at least for the younger people, at least for people like me, I more so at least started off like I've been working since I was 16. So my first job was at Pizza, a pizza shop. After that, I did 2 years in the environmental field, like removing invasive species and learning. And I got 16 certifications in that span. So they were paying for my certifications and things like that. So gaining knowledge and learning in those 2 years. After that, I transitioned into doing solar work for 2.5 years, installing solar panels and things of that nature, to getting out of that and wanting something a little less demanding for my body, at least. I was realizing that that was kind of breaking me down a little bit, which I didn't mind. The money was good and everything like that, but I just wanted a little bit, I guess, laxer. So I tried to go into security. I did that for about a month. Actually gave it a try, but it wasn't something that interests me. So I didn't just, I quit or whatever. I applied for multiple other
Excuse
jobs,
me,
got another
could I
job,
chime
and
in
then,
really quick?
huh?
Can I chime in really quick? Hey, Uncle.
what's
I
going on, niece?
I just want to say something really quick. I went to I'm 27. I'm about to turn 27 this month. So I personally feel, and I understand where you're coming from with being able to. I just actually got out of that stage of trying to figure out what area I want to go into, and I did attend college for some time. And with the experience that I went to, because I went for education in psychology, so the goal for me was to become a guidance counselor. So going and seeing our education, I mean, seeing how this generation, well, our generation at least, because you're 24, that means you're in the 2000s. I'm in 98. So I'm still kind of like in the cusp of where it kind of turns over into like the real digital age. I was still, burning discs. I know how to do this. I was still, playing stuff with cords attached to a console with me and my brothers and stuff like that. So I feel like when it comes to a job with our more younger selves that we have here, it's more in a sense of not so much you're still trying to really decide what you want to do in life as far as what exactly you want to do with your life, being away from your parents, or like trying to get away, trying to actually niche out from your parents. And the fact that we're in a social media age is kind of overwhelming. So for the older ages, it was kind of easier to stay in a job because you didn't have other influences saying, oh, do this, do that, do this, try that, try this, try that. It was more easier for you to stay focused in a job and be longevity and just, just roll with the punches, as we say. Our generation is more like, if I ain't got to do it, I ain't gonna do it, because I know there's something else out there that I can. And then for me, being that I'm still a 90s baby, but I'm still at the end of it, I get the both sides of needing to stay in a job for longevity and also needing to like what I do. That's why in my generation, we also make sure that we have passions. Like for now, I'm really focused on my singing because I want that to actually carry me into what I want to do. But I know for right now, for as far as stability, I have to have a job. If that makes sense.
Yes, because
Yeah,
there's certain things
you're
called.
completely right though, because
And
it's a mixture of that, and then also with the social media, a lot of people are scared to branch out also, so they tend to do the same things that they see other people doing just to make themselves feel comfortable, or to do something that's, I guess, easier in their mind. But I feel like a lot of people also, they don't take risks, and that's a big part of where I was coming from with my journey, because after I realized that I wasn't good and I didn't like a boring security job. I've been at my job for almost 2.5 years now, and I'm a contractor. So it's like I had to start off not at the bottom, because I started off at a manager position based off of all of the other things that I had on my resume. So I started off at a nice position, but I worked myself up now to the point where it's like I can actually do something in this company, meaning like go run a Chicago branch or something like that. And it's like you don't learn things like that until you get inside of a company and actually try. So there's a trying factor with it as well. A lot of people are scared.
All right, before we go on, Summer had her hand up. I didn't want to think I forgot about her. What you want to say, Miss Summer?
No, I was just listening, and I'm at the age now where for the younger people, I'm the one that's normally now doing the hiring. So I'm looking like from my point of view, and I'm just wondering just what the panel thinks offhand. When you go to hire a young person, um, now I know I was raised to what my mom always said, if you going to mess up in your life and experiment and all that, you do all that early, get all that out the way, learn, and then you grow from that and you move on and you become better. But now again, from my age point, I'm the person now that's hiring the younger people. And I'm in my late I'm getting ready to be 50. I'm about to be 49. And I have a little bit of the old school mentality where, you come to work in your interview, you look presentable, you speak well, you carry yourself. I'm trying to look for any signs that, you know, now mental health is a big thing and all that stuff. But now when you're hiring someone, and this, I don't have, I'm not hiring anybody. I don't, but I'm just out of curiosity. When you're hiring somebody with, is it a deterrent that they have a lot of jobs under their belt, or is it because they're like, okay, you've been here, you've been there everywhere, or do you look at it like,
That's such a
okay,
good
you
question.
tried this didn't work, okay, you went through this, you stepping stone, trying to figure it out type thing. So like as a person hiring somebody, how are you looking at the person that you're going to hire?
So,
Ooh, can I answer that?
well, yeah, you can.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm glad you asked that question because I used to hire people. I had like 30 employees under me, and I want to say about half of them I employed. And yes, I look to see if you're jumping, and this is why I mentioned it earlier about my boss only being at a job for 4 years. when you are looking at someone's resume, yes, you want them to have experience, but you also want to know, are you wasting your time hiring them because do they want to stay? Are they just here for a temporary check, or are they here to help the company prosper? And that's what you look for. A lot of these people, younger people don't understand that you have so many um, jobs that throughout your short life, you done had like 10 or 20 jobs and you only in your 20s. That's not a good thing. But if you had about 10 or 20 jobs and you're at my age, then that looks like you've been at these jobs without gaps. Looks like you've been at these jobs for long periods of time. And that means loyalty, stability, and as well as uh, experience because you took the time. And even if you grew within your company, you still grew within your company to learn the company and they expand and make the company better as well as make you better. So when you're out there and when you're young, that's fine because after 10 years, they don't look at after 10 years. But you are fine now as a young person to try to find what is your niche. Once you figure out what your niche is, you need to stay with it because they start to really look to see if you're a loyal person or if you're just somebody that's here for a little bit of time. Now I got to go hire somebody else somewhere, another time. That's what a lot of companies now today's society. I'm not sure if they do that because I actually have a boss who is in her at 60 years old, and even though I think she retired twice, she's just coming back to work just so she can help her daughter get her master's. And then she's talking about quitting. She talks about quitting almost every day. That's something that if her boss heard that on a regular basis, like I hear it, it's a really big turnoff type thing. So yes, I truly believe when you are looking for jobs or when you're trying to build your career or your life, having so many multiple jobs is not a good thing. Go ahead, Ray.
Yes, ma'am. I was about to say the same thing because a lot of young people, at least that I see, they'll have a job for a month or two at most, and then jump to the next one. And it's not even like they're jumping from retail to a business job or something. They're literally jumping from fast food to fast food. So it's like, what is the point from going to McDonald's to Taco Bell? Like maybe $1 in wage. So it's like stuff like that doesn't make sense. And I feel like a lot of these things comes from the lack of things that's taught in schools. Because when I graduated, we didn't have a financial literacy class. We didn't have really like any college readiness classes or anything. And granted, I did grow up in the inner city in DC, but I mean, when it comes to resources out here nowadays, especially for a lot of the youth, they don't really look towards the right ones, and that's what leads them down that wrong career path because a lot of people would think a job is a job, and that's not what it is. If you're not, in my eyes, looking, or if you can't see yourself in that job for at least 2 to 3 years, then there's no point of applying. Like, I mean, it's different if you're in an internship or something like that. You in an apprenticeship or something like that. You're there obviously to gain knowledge and for opportunity. But when you looking for a job that is especially like a career job, because I don't understand. I don't think a lot of people understand that. It's people that started off as fry cooks and work their ways up to owning this place. So like, a lot of young people don't understand the aspect of working, meaning like to climb the ladder. But I think that comes from the lack of really guidance. A lot of young people don't really understand the importance of that.
Go
That
ahead,
makes
Dad.
sense. That makes sense. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dabs.
All right, yeah, I want to bounce off a little bit. I like what Nicole said, and Ray. Ray, I'm a little bit confused because you told me you bounced from one job to another job, and and I understand from what you were saying about the fry cook to one thing, that looks worse than somebody jump. I've been a school teacher. I've been a school teacher for a long time. I could bounce from school to school every year, and I'm in the same field. Doesn't look as bad as somebody jumping from fry cook to hostess to, I'm in construction, then I'm going back to car washes. That's a worse looking situation on a job. I used to hire people as well. So that's a worse looking situation on an application than someone going, if it's 2 years here and 2 years there, but they're still in the same profession. That's a little bit easier for a person that's hiring people to look at and understand, okay, you might say, why'd you leave this one? Why'd you leave that one? I mean, you're going to say that anyway, but I mean, it's easier if they're in the same position. Now you know that person is locked into doing what they're doing. And I understand, at 24 years old, and back in my days at 24 years old, and like Nicole was saying, people back in our age, when we got into the job, it was almost like, that was whether we liked it or not, we just didn't hop off because we didn't like the manager or he said something to us like the kids do today. They don't like something, they don't like somebody says something, they jumping. They jump and ship to the next job. And it has nothing to do with whether they like the job or not. It's just that somebody said something, they twisted it. They said something wrong and it just gets hot headed and you move along. But I think, from past times, we would stay in job. If somebody says something, we brush it off our shoulders and keep on rolling. It's a little bit harder. I understand the mentality that, that's what this whole thing is about. The Gen Z and the Gen X's and how we pertain or how we handle things. And I think that's a lot on the job end today.
Yes, sir. You definitely right. To clear that up for you, I didn't add in the important part. I've been working since I was 16. So when I started off at the pizza shop, that was me at 16. Hustling, making sure that I'm not asking mom for nothing. But after I worked there for a little bit, and I turned 19, almost 20. That's when I was like, okay, I want to start getting certifications and things like that because I realized that I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to go to college for everything but the work, the women, the parties. I talked to Dre about this before. But I wanted to go to college for everything but what college was there for. And I graduated with a 3.6. So I was very smart. I did my work. I wasn't one of those kids. But like I said, growing up in DC in the inner city, I didn't have what a lot of other kids will have as far as resources. So the scholarships that I had wouldn't even cover half of one semester. So I decided not to put myself in debt, things like that. I understood and was smart from a young age that I knew that to get, I guess, a good paying job, a good quality job, a career job, you didn't have to go to college if you didn't mind skilled labor. And that's more so where I was at. So that's why I had went into that environmental field. And then after that, I had went into solar. I was in the environmental field. It was like an apprenticeship program. So I was in there for 2 years. They had helped me get all of my certifications and things like that. I got every resource that they had possible. I got certifications that I don't even use. OSHA 30, OSHA 10, just multiple things, first aid, CPR, multiple things. But after that, I went into solar, and I was doing that for almost 3 years. And the only reason I stopped because it was physically demanding on my body, and I couldn't physically handle that. So once I realized that I needed at least something less demanding, I had tried out security work, but I realized that I'm not a sit behind a desk type of guy. So mind you, that's what 4 jobs in the span of my years. So now I'm on my 5th one, and like I said, I started off here at a position that I wasn't comfortable at, and worked my way up to now to where I'm hiring people and I'm looking at resumes. So it's definitely things that y'all mentioned and qualifications that I look at when I'm looking at certain people resumes as well, because a lot of young people don't understand that gaps are very bad. And that's one thing I can say to my resume. I have 0 gaps. Before I left the job, I had another one lined up. So in my 5 jobs, there are no gaps. From 16 to 24, I've been working and working hard. No excuses, no passes, no help. I don't really like look for handouts and stuff like that. That's why I went into the skilled labor field, because I knew that I don't mind working with my hands. I don't mind coming home dirty. I don't mind the 6 a.m.s to 6 p.m. stuff like that. I don't mind. So that's why I transitioned into getting the certifications and getting the things, the proper knowledge and things that I need to where I'm at now. Actually, I was going to mention this to Dre on a one-on-one. For the last like 8 months, I've been researching to start up my own business, and that's what a various of things that I have learned over the years, whether that's gutter removal and gutter installation or HVAC certifications and things like that that I have. So I've just been exploring all my options and things like that because one thing that I did realize is eventually I do want to be my own boss. So that means entrepreneurship. So that means other things like that that you have to branch out and networking and things like that, which I've already started to do now in my own company. There are things that we don't offer that I am picking up on the side to do. Weekend jobs going out Saturday and granted, do my company no, but we don't offer these things. And I go out, I pay for the supplies and the tools, and I do the numbers and make sure I turn a profit on it. And just small stuff like that that can turn into big stuff. So I mean, I like I said, I feel like it all comes with knowledge, and it all comes with the type of people you have around you because like I said, I'm 24, but I always hung around older people. Like I feel like I'm an old soul because I didn't really have like the father figure or the male figure in the house. I'm the baby in my family, but I always was the man of the house. So it's been different for me. So I kind of carry that weight and that responsibility to show my siblings and show other people, the youth and the younger dudes that I have around me that yeah, you might see me when I'm outside and I'm chilling and I'm talking to y'all, but y'all don't see me when I'm getting up at 6 a.m. tired as hell, saying as soon as I get off, I'm going straight to sleep, knowing damn well I'm not. So, like, it struggles with it, but, it's life.
Well,
Take it
that
all
young
in the chin,
man,
though.
that young man is gonna make it because the key
Yeah,
word
you're
is
on the right track.
Yes, he is on the right track because I'm gonna tell you, my son, it's a slow process. He's trying to get there, and I'm seeing it. But and I'm looking at his cousins and stuff, and that, forgive me, but that damn video game and everything, they got them boys hooked. And that daggone Mary Jane is a roadblock like you can't believe. So the fact that you got that drive, let me tell you something, you are ahead
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
game
And one thing
tenfold.
that Dre and Miss Andrine can attest to, the same things your son do. I love him just as much. I love video games. I play the game every day. I love Mary Jane. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm prepared to indulge in that after we're done here. But I also had to prioritize
But you
and
can
realize
still.
what's important. And
Hey,
everybody
Chef,
Still
call
doing.
tell him my first nickname for you before I called you Chef.
everybody.
It was weedy.
Everybody process is different, so I feel like he'll get there on his own time. He just he just gotta take his own time. Everybody's path is different, also. So one thing I also learned was to not rush people and to also give people their time and their space as well.
Hey Ray, you're doing an awesome job. That's what I'm gonna say. And hey, I started working when I was 12. I started my own business at 12. So keep it moving.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just want to say something. I like the fact that you was saying all this stuff that you're doing. I just wish that that was spread. And me saying that a lot of your generation, um, they think differently than what you think. And I guess because of that old soul that you have, because I have a few younger friends that I do associate with, and they have a young, and I think the reason why I associate with because they have a young soul as well. I mean, an old soul as well. So we know how to communicate. But there are others who don't have that old soul and have that mentality of what the generation is doing today. I had a young neighbor and I asked her, I said, you got a job yet? And she says, no, not yet. I said, well, what's taking you so long? I know you're tired of asking your mama for some money. She said, yeah, I am. I said, well, what's taking you? She says, these people don't want to hire um, people who don't have experience. And also, they don't want to hire and give me what I'm worth. And I'm thinking, you just said that they don't want to hire people who don't have experience, but then you said they're not going to hire you because you're not going to get your worth. You got to start from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start from
Mm-hmm.
somewhere at the end of the day. And if you get paid for that's not your worth, at least you got paid and you are working and you're learning something. But
But
they don't
that's
see it in that manner.
but
They
Pearl,
see it.
that's our fault though. You know why? Because we told our kids they can do anything they want to do. We
Okay. Now, my two children, two of my three are on here today. And I'm gonna tell you this. I told my children that never let anybody block your blessing, do your best. And yes, you could do anything that you put your mind to it. But there are situations. I've always taught my kids to dress properly, um, to know how to go through an interview, know how to fill out an application, know how to, have a resume. I taught my kids a lot of stuff that this newer generation doesn't know. And I am very proud of my children because two of them not bought a house, but built a house. One have a business and the other one is actually are you still doing the architect thing? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think you just switched over to something else. But they know the value of getting a job, staying with a job until you learn it and then you can move on. This new generation doesn't go through that. So I am very proud of Ray. I never met him, don't know what he looked like, only know what he sounds like. I'm very impressed with what he is doing in his life and keep it up. Keep up the good work. I brag about my children all the time. My daughter is the one that's on here, Nicole, and my son is Justin. And I'm very proud of them all the time because I taught them the old school ways, I would say. I remember I took both my boys to go get a job at Sonics. They got a little upset with me because I told them they had to wear a shirt and tie and a pair of slacks and not jeans, and to a fast food restaurant. Mind you, they were being hired and they were being interviewed outside at the outside table. But when the guy was actually interviewing somebody that had a white t-shirt, pair of short jean shorts, and sneakers. And I was always, yes, granted, I was always taught to dress the job. You're supposed to dress the job,
the job you want, not the
the
job you
job you
have.
want, right? And so, but I told my sons, the first impression is a lasting impression. So when they got out the car to go to do their little interview, the guy was still interviewing that one person and caught, they he caught them in, the peripheral of his vision and did a double take. And one of them got hired. They only had a chance only for one, but the other one went to another restaurant and got hired there. But I'm saying is because they were dressed appropriately and knew how to go through the interview, the man told my son that you actually did a very good interview. And I appreciate the way you were dressed and how you came professionally looking. Even though you want a fast food restaurant, but I need you to go there like you about to own that restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
It builds character too.
Yeah, it builds character, right? It builds character. It's just the fact that I love the fact that this young man is doing that. But I want to switch up a little bit, uh, if I can. What is the difference of Gen X and the millennials? My son was trying to get me to practice to pronounce that correctly.
Well, the Gen X is basically 1965 to 1981. So, for example, that's Michelle Lakeisha. Millennials are from 1982 to 1997. So,
Okay. So
so that
Nicole
would
just
be,
made it.
yeah,
No, 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 no.
No,
She's
she missed
she's
it.
98. She's 98.
98. She's a Gen Z. But the thing is, I wanted to bring my nephew on, who's like myself. He's a veteran, and he's got his engineering degree. You know, he wanted to pledge something else, but I said, all right. So Justin, you know, I knew you since you knew yourself. What do you think about my generation and your sister's generation, and what are the differences with your generation?
We're test babies.
What
So with my generation, right? Um, I can definitely say that y'all were trying to find your own way, and trying to not be how y'all were when y'all were growing up. Um, but in the mix of it, it kind of gets like some stuff isn't actually told, but some stuff is drilled into your head. Like my mother said, um, she drilled into us to always get a job, how to get a job, and keeping a job. And not only that, doing different things, being multifaceted, not just sticking to one lane. Um, so that was drilled into us at I don't even know how young we were.
When you came out the womb.
Yeah, basically, because it started with church. And there were mornings where we didn't feel like going to church, to choir practice, to anything like that. And our mom just said, "Hey, you gotta keep to it, keep committing. You made a commitment, you gotta keep to it. You gotta be a man of your word." So I don't want to be a man of my word no more.
Trust me, that's we got that from our grandparents, because and especially our parents. Your nana was like, if I'm paying for something, you better finish it.
Yeah, no. She told me that too.
I drilled that in their head too.
It's like
I'm a type. I noticed that this generation tends to quit so quickly. They don't tough anything out. And I've always said this on several of our shows that this generation is they're scared of nothing but offended by everything. And I feel they are lazy as hell.
Mm.
What do you mean by this generation? Which generation are you talking about?
she's
The
talking
was
about
it
Gen
Gen Z?
Z.
Millennials? Oh,
Gen
Gen
Z.
Zs?
No, Gen Z. Millennials, they're borderline a little bit, just depending on what, part of the year. I mean, what part of the generation it ends. But um, I truly believe that Gen Z are not afraid of anything, offended about everything, and lazy as hell.
Well, yeah, because but, like, okay, so to me, different generations come with different problems, and with the different problems come different solutions. And in the middle of the solution, especially for like, so Gen Z or not Gen Z, what are they? What is Nicole?
She's Gen Z.
She's actually
Okay, yeah,
Gen Z. She just
yeah.
made it to Gen Z. She's on the cusp.
So like Gen Z, right? We're different from us because we're different from millennials because we were brought up to be tough. But as a kid, we didn't like being toughed on. So now when we grow up, I'm not going to do the same thing my family did or my parents did. I'm going to have my kids actually love me because I want to do this and this and this with them and actually be able to see them. So now we're changing the way that we were brought up into what we feel like might actually have our kids, uh, spend more family time with us, not be in the streets like we used to be and stuff like that, because for some odd reason we miss that within the family.
I can see that. I can understand that because Gen Z. No, yeah, we're Gen X, right? Sorry, I'm gonna get
Yeah,
these little generations
we're
together.
Gen X.
Gen X, we did have a tendency of working two and three jobs just to, make ends meet and make sure that our
Mhm.
family was provided for, as well as have a certain way of living and
Standard of
not,
living. No, you say
yeah,
it, and
a
I
certain
know
way of living.
Ice
We
Lord know
wanted, we
too.
still wanted to be the we still wanted to be the Joneses. No offense, Ice Lord, but we wanted to be the Joneses, but we still was the Greens.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I mean,
And we tended to we were never home. I am guilty of that, to where I worked two jobs and had four or five hustles on the side. I don't work two jobs, but I still got four or five hustles on the side.
and that's
um
the thing, though. That's how we were raised, and
yes, right.
unfortunately, we didn't. And I don't say that Gen Z is lazy because they're lazy. They're lazy because we weren't. I mean, we gotta call it for real. We gave them too
Too
much
much, yes,
because we didn't have enough.
right.
Yep.
We didn't have enough.
Yeah,
Yep.
so dad said he ain't give his kids nothing. But you know what? I sometimes that might have been good, because what I'm seeing is that his oldest is out there doing the same thing he's doing, where actually have these selling these, a little store and selling it. And then his youngest son actually has a museum in his garage that people come and see all of the different things that he has displayed and all that other good stuff. And then his daughter's a truck driver. She drives an 18 wheeler. So, he's installed in them that they're hard working and let's get it done.
And
And he said
everybody,
he
I
didn't give him
mean,
anything.
all our kids, all the kids that I know on here, they they ain't scared of work because we
No.
put that in them. However, like I said, the difference is that we don't expect them to last on one job because, like you were talking about loyalty to the job. The job ain't got jobs these days ain't
No.
got no loyalty to
No.
them.
No, you're right. You're right.
So they praise you one day and fire you the next day,
Next day. Yep.
and
They did that
and
to Dabs.
Been
and
there,
that
done that.
it's I don't blame them for being the way they are because they're dealing with something that we never had to deal with. Now we all quit jobs. I mean, most of us got fired from a job. I know I did.
I have as well.
but but
Yep.
the thing is though is that we were always looking for a job because we hated being broke.
Right.
Yep.
We gave our kids a lot because we didn't want them to feel
Or
broke.
Right.
And now that they out here paying their own bills, they don't realize they realizing now that what we were doing it looked easy, but it sure wasn't easy.
Right. We did hide a lot of stuff. Uh, like, even though my kids knew that I was struggling, but they didn't know how much I was struggling, because I still provided everything that they need, and
Good.
sometimes above and beyond, and where, you know, I actually had to work those two jobs and have a couple of hustles on the side, just so I know that they will stay to the point where what they're used to. And yes, that's our fault. But it's also our fault that if we are parents who did not also teach them a value of the dollar. I've mentioned this multiple times before as well. Pam drilled into my children: spend a little, save a lot. And
You know, my namesake is he's cheaper than I am, and I'm cheap as hell.
yeah,
So yeah, no, I don't
Thank you for
make
that
no
comment.
mistakes about
look,
it.
I look. I seen him make a sandwich every single day that he has to be to work. He don't buy nothing outside unless
Exact,
dad is buying it for
exactly. And Dad
him.
stopped buying for him when he turned 18. I was like, "You want something to eat?" He said, "Yeah, you paying for it? I'm good." But it's one of those things that you hope that they know that they know that you love them, and you only wanted the best for them. Sometimes the lesson takes a lot longer than you want it to, but in the end, you know, said our kids are going to do what they're going to do. We just hope that we instilled in them enough to know that, hey, the training wheels are off. We got to do what we got to do. You got to do what you got to do. Now we're gonna try to save y'all some money for it, but you got to get it. You got to get it yourself because we ain't always gonna be here.
That's right. And I
And I
think
know,
that's a problem. We spoil them that way. They feel that, well, shucks, I don't have to, I can wait to look for a job or look for what I want. My parents is gonna take care of me.
yeah, but taking care of you don't mean that we gonna placate you and just give you
And we
everything.
do. We saying that now, but we do. We still do that. You
I
got a grown
know.
son. You got a grown son, married and everything, got his own house, and you probably still, okay, son, if you need something, I'm there for you,
Yeah,
type thing.
of course. But he don't.
Me, when
But
my son asked Justin when
he's like
he
his
wound up
father. He is
homeless,
hard headed, and he won't ask for nothing.
when my son
He won't ask for
was
nothing.
home, when my sons caused themselves to be homeless, I just told the oldest one, he said, yeah, we got kicked out and whatever the situation was and why. I said, okay, son, well, you know what? Before you go to work, go down to the truck stop, take your shower, stay on the dollar menu. That was my advice.
Man, that was a long 2 weeks.
Motivation, Jeffrey,
Bro,
motivation.
nah. That wasn't even my fault. That was the messed up part about it.
Yeah, yeah. Your mother told us the story.
But when I'm saying I said that, I never told him that come on home, son. No. He actually he kind of came home and just never left. So then I had to start charging him rent.
I was fine
Oh
with
yeah,
that.
when you start charging them rent, they get real
They got a
independent.
different tune. Yeah, they got a totally different tune. Totally different tune. But that's calling, holding them accountable for their selves and not just always depending. Yeah, you need to borrow something and I got it. Yeah, I'll give it to you, but I need it back. And you just you keep doing that, and it builds character. Let me tell you, my son is, well, he's not necessarily cheap with his wife, but he's very frugal on a lot of things. He thinks about it before he purchases it. The other son does the same thing. But he buys what he wants if he can afford it, and he buys it. But for anything else, he's really frugal on. Nicole is learning that as soon as she stopped Ubering Eats, she got it down pat.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's just the yeah. Dad say all the time you need to buy you some groceries. But it's just the fact that what you install in your children is up to you. It is our fault that the Gen Z are, like I said, I feel that they are lazy. But that's just my opinion and not the opinion of this show.
Hey, Nicole,
Okay, so
mama just told you
send
lazy.
all the hate mail to me. That's fine. I don't mind. But I think they're lazy because the fact that, like I was saying, they don't want to hold on to something. If they don't like it, they're gone. For any little tiny reason, they're gone. And then guess who has to back them up? Their parents. And that's our fault. That is our fault. But if we hold them accountable, like I held Justin accountable, that, okay, son, go to the truck stop, take your shower. It only costs like $2 and stay on the dollar menu. He said it lasted 2 weeks. And I think the reason why he came home because our uncle passed and he needed to drive our other aunt and uncle to the funeral. And then when they came home, they dropped him off at my house and he just never went back home. He never went back to homelessness, put
understandable.
it that way. And so it's just the fact that it builds
Understandable.
character. And now today,
Glory
look,
to God.
but if
But
we
that's
teach
what's
our generations, if the next generations, we need to teach Gen Z to now teach their children a better way of life of how to make sure that they're not in the same funk that they're about to get in because they are
In
in
trouble.
trouble.
Them children is gone.
They in trouble
But
in
that's,
every type of way and don't realize it because that social media is going to finally is going to wind up fading eventually. All that stuff that's paying them just to keep put all their business out on public and all that, it's going to fade. So they need a backup. And then so that's not going to be generational wealth right there. So they need to get something to where they're going to be able to create generational wealth for their children, but don't just give that wealth to the children. They got to
well,
earn it.
yeah, no, that's you have a point. Well, but we way over time, but that's okay though, because sometimes you just gotta get stuff in. And I want to thank everybody on the board. I want to thank my nephew for coming on and say something. I want to thank the chef for coming on. I want to thank the Ice Lord for coming on. I appreciate him. You know, that's my day one. Said my
Indeed.
brother from another mother. But you know, we done been through the fire together. I want to thank each and everyone on the board tonight. All your input was important, and it helped us understand. And hopefully, everybody learned something. And next week we're gonna come up with another topic. If y'all got a topic, hit me up at delight7 at gmail.com. That's DELITE, the number 7 at gmail.com. And I want y'all to know, if you can't laugh at yourself, find somebody to laugh at. Y'all be good.
Peace.
Good
Thanks
seeing
for
you, Will.
watching. This is the
Good
man with
seeing
the
you,
golden
Will.
voice, the lady's choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce, saying, never make love by the garden gate. Though love is blind, the neighbors ain't.